5 once again. Historic Sim Racing Organization presents round number 4 of the 1991 Formula One World Championship at Monte Carlo, Monaco. I am Jason White. I will be your commentator, and I am joined in the booth by Alberto Ibañez. Alberto, good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Here from the center of glamour in the Blue Coast.
Yes.
Here in the southern end of France, where we're having a great time watching the cars lapping around at the harbor.
Grab yourself a martini, and maybe you're on a yacht, with your captain's hat and your ascot. But here we are in the beautiful Principality of Monte Carlo for the 4th round of this championship. A race that's going to see a lot of changes, in particular David Jakes leaving the Marlboro McLaren team and going to Jordan.
It was certainly an amazing turnaround in this championship, and we must commendate David for his class act doing so, because he felt he was unbalancing the championship with that car that was giving him an advantage. He's a very fair player, and he is also showing us his skills, because despite changing to Jordan, that hasn't changed a lot his domination of the championship.
Yeah, let's take a look at the championship right now while we have a moment. The Drivers' Championship, David Jakes, of course, has got a perfect 30 points. David Yundeson second with 8. Then Michael Janek with 7. And on down the list we have Greg Boissin tied with Raul Yareb. And then Gabriel Del Piccolo, Peter Hlavik, and Jan Kowalski tied with 4 apiece for 6th place. Constructor points, we have McLaren with 32, Lola in a surprising 2nd with 9, and that's largely due to the performances of Greg Boissin and David Gunt when he was guest driving. Ferrari with 7, Lotus and Williams tied with 6 points, then Dallara, March, and Minardi with 4. The track itself really needs no introduction. Monte Carlo, slightly over 2 miles. Today's race is 78 laps or 2 hours, whichever comes first. So it's going to be really interesting. Of course, this is a race that has 0 margin for error, and we're going to have to watch very carefully to see if everybody can get through Saint-Devote on the first lap, and indeed if they can get through the other tight sections of the course, because as we know, once you get out in front, it's hard to overtake, and people are going to be looking for every piece of real estate they can.
That's right. The start here is probably the most problematic part of the course, because once they are on the way, it might be that you find a slower car and you have to overtake. That might be, of course, some tight places and some daring maneuvers, but it's certainly the first turn in the race when all the 26 cars are well packed together and going for any small piece of track, as you said, where it's going to be the most complicated part of the race. If they go safely through turn 1, they have certainly many possibilities of doing something good in the race.
Okay, so we've got about a minute, or actually 2, to go here. So this is a good chance for us to go through the grid and take a look at how they qualified for this round 4 of the championship. Round 1 through 3, we had David Jakes and McLaren. Today, he starts in the pole again, but this time, he's in the Jordan Cosworth. Alongside him, Jan Kowalski in the March Ilmore. Another great performance for him in the Leighton House team. Row number 2, we have Mick Chapman in the Benetton, and Grant Radal making his first appearance in this series, driving the Brabham Yamaha. Row 3, Pascal Michelot makes his first appearance in the top 10 with the McLaren, and alongside him, Gabriel Del Piccolo, also his first time in the top 10 with the Lotus Judd. Next row, we have Gerard Rion, the Tyrrell Honda, and then we have Michael Janek driving the Ferrari 642. Row 5, Raul Yareb in the Williams Renault, Ricardo Patrese Williams Renault, and Martin Lucina continuing to do a good job in the Dallara Judd. Now let's take a look at the rest of the starters in this 26-car field. Paolo Rossetti in the second Lotus is 11th, Philippe Martinelli is 12th, Yves Placé 13th, François Remin 14th, Jonathan Asserklin is 15th in the AGS, Ludovic Tiengu debuts for McLaren in 16th, Ray Radal is 17th, and Peter Hlavik is 18th. Row 10 features the entire Ligier team, Alessandro Riolo and Steve Parker. Then we have Vincent Beretta in the second March Ilmore, and David Yunt in guest drive for the Lamborghini team. The last 2 rows, Brian Janek driving the second Lamborghini, Rob Swindell's debuts for HSO in the Kalani amazing that he got that car in the grid. And in the last row, Alan Forrester in the second Benetton and Didier Conjauge starts shotgun in the second Ferrari. That's your grid. So
that's a grid, and Didier Conjauge, who is closing it, has as many good chances of winning the race as anybody, because that's one of the peculiarities of this race. We have already seen some historic real races here where anything unexpected could happen. We saw Olivier Panis get a victory that was completely unexpected, and these walls are so unforgiving that anything can happen here. It's really a surviving race.
okay, so we're going to the race session now, and everybody remember that we do not, and I repeat, do not have the... Shoot. Jan Kowalski just left the game. Well, since he's starting on the outside of the row, so we better restart the warm-up. My goodness. First, lots of jitters, and a lot of people probably... So we're going to have to wait and see if everybody is able to get back in. Goodness. All right, there we go. So why are there 25 cars? I don't get it. Oh, goodness. So we do have a Lotus missing. That means... Let's see. All right, we're going to sort this out real quick. We'll be right back. All right, well, if... shoot. All right, so we're going to give Mark Florkin 5 minutes to come onto the server. Apparently, we have a Lotus missing, and since he qualified 27th, meaning Mark Florkin, that means that he can join the server at the back of the grid if he wants to. So we're going to give him a few minutes here. This is the first time, I think, Alberto, that we've run into this situation where a driver has not showed up and the 27th place guy is able to join.
Yeah, but that's, well, real life sometimes gets in the way. It seems that Rossetti wasn't here in all evening, as David is saying. We missed it because with 26 drivers, we were almost sure that was the ones that did qualify.
Mm-hmm. So obviously drivers are getting a bit antsy here, but obviously if someone gets shut out when they could have run, that's not going to be very fun for those people. So...
Oh, Mark is just replying in the live streaming at YouTube, so maybe he reads it.
Mm-hmm.
and he comes back. So
All right, good.
it will be a matter of moment to see if he can come back.
All right, well, that's good. So we'll wait for him to rejoin, and then we will get down to business here, hopefully.
I'm not sure because everyone put him in the chat in English, and he is known for not speaking English. So hopefully someone can type it in French.
Well, according to Peter Hlavik, he says he's responding broadcast chat. Give him 2 minutes, so hopefully he'll be able to get back in here quickly. It'll be really interesting to see who gets to turn one first, whether it is going to be because really you got to remember that the Jordan does not have the hot Ford engine, and the Leighton House Ilmor that Jan Kowalski has got a pretty decent torque band. So I wouldn't be surprised if those two are right up with each other right before they get to that corner.
It's always hard to tell
There he
here
is.
because there he is. It's always hard to tell here because sometimes having a lot of torque here can be a mixed blessing. Because when you start from standing, as these cars do, it's too easy to spin too much the wheels and not get forward really. So when you have a good run down to the first turn, that's one thing. But when you have a short run like here and then a very tight corner, 90 degrees corner with a barrier on the end, then it's sometimes quite difficult and not really the best thing to have a very quick start. Okay.
All right, so we're going to move to the next session now. That's strange. Mark Florkin is 25th on the grid. He should be 26th.
I think the Diego Joe didn't. Well, his time wasn't allowed. No, it was. So yeah, it's weird. Anyway, not a big change.
Not a big change.
And I think that Didier will find a safer start like that. So
probably true. All right, so we're now moving to the start of the race. And
very tense moments here.
The race is underway. Into the first turn. Here they come. Let's see what happens. Oh goodness. Tense moments. Everybody trying to stay. Wow, look at that. They're really behaving.
Now that's a very decent start.
Yeah.
We can always trust our drivers when they're going at stuff. They went very safely to this turn and now they can race properly.
So we have David Jakes leading the race. Jan Kowalski is in second as they come to the famous station hairpin. Everybody trying to make their way through here. And of course, oh goodness, there's contact with one of the Ligiers, and I believe that was Raul Reb. There's the Kalani making its way through. This is the first time we've seen the Kalani on the grid. Amazing that car was able to qualify. But then again, this is not a race that would need raw power. So here they come through the Nouvelle chicane. This is going to be really... Oh, Raul Reb has lost his front wing. Oh, goodness! Oh, no! We have a McLaren upside down, and it's Ludovic Tiengu.
Ah,
my goodness. Oh, that's too bad. So about to complete lap 1. We have David Jakes in the lead.
So he quit with
Jan
suspension
Kowalski
damage.
and Mick Chapman's in third. And then we have Pascal Mikola in fourth. Everyone's streaming through.
Well, David Jackson, his new Jordan, is no prisoners.
Yeah, I know. That
He
we
started like my dear hero from the Moto 500, Wayne Rainey, who immediately took off and let everybody follow him if they could. That seems to be the policy from David Jacks. He's really pressing it hard now. He wants to open a gap with Jan Kowalski. And I must say that's certainly a good tactic if you can keep your concentration here, because there will be a moment when he meets leopard cars here, and it's not easy to overtake them. So you need really a certain gap to the car behind, so as not to risk any potential problem and being overtaken.
This was, we're looking at Nouvelle Chicane here where the accident occurred. There's a really, really tight scrap going on between Pascal Mikola and the three cars behind him. Nouvelle Chicane is very difficult, Alberto, because you have that really high curb right there, and it's not a chicane that you can fudge, as some might say.
Yeah, you can tell that to Grant Riddle, who just overtook Gerard Rion.
All right, lap 2 complete, and Mick Chapman is starting to struggle to hold on a little bit, and then we've got the four cars of, we got a really, really tight scrap between Pascal Mikola in 4th, Grant Riddall in 5th, and then I believe that's Gerard Rion behind them, and then one of the Lotai. And Pascal Mikola is definitely one of the drivers that we would term as the hard chargers in HSO. So it'll be interesting to see if he's able to keep the car between the barriers for all 78 laps.
What we have seen so far is certainly that if he is able to keep his cool down and make the most of his juice exuberance, he certainly seems to be quite fast when he is connected with the car.
Yep.
Right now he's suffering the pressure from Grant Riddle, though.
Yeah, Grant
who is our veteran here, a guy who we saw do some very amazing performances last year in the Formula 1 78 season. And he is already showing his car to Pascal, letting him know he's there and waiting for any opportunity to pass him.
As they whip through the swimming pool, and actually, I would point out that this is Grant Riddall driving this car. This is Ray Riddall's son.
Right.
As he looks for any room he can at the Rascats. Looks like Gerard lost a bit of time there, ran a bit wide in the Anthony Nodge's section. But yeah, Grant is basically sizing up Pascal, looking for the right opportunity. Obviously not here.
That's right. I mistook them because the father, who did amazing performances last year, is also riding on the other Brabham Yamaha here.
That's right.
So it's father and son in the same team. He's right now in 14th position, merging it with Philippe Martinelli in the Williams and Peter Lavak, who is right now, and just in that position, Philippe Martinelli lost his wing, his front wing. He seems to have clipped the barrier somewhere.
Oh, and Philippe Martinelli has retired with suspension damage.
He must have hit something.
So here's the replay of what happened.
Raul also suffered the
accident. Goodness, he hit the wall and lost both wings.
Out.
He hit the wall and lost both wings in the uphill section, heading up the hill towards the Massenet. So that's the end of that.
Look for the Williams team today.
My goodness, not a good day for Williams at all. It's true. Pascal's pulled out a little bit of a gap between himself and Grant Riddall. And the order still looks to be, we'll take a look as they come up the hill here. There's David Jakes in first, Jan Kowalski in second, and then we have a little distance back to Mick Chapman in third in the Benetton. Mick has been fast in that car most of the year, but he hasn't really produced results. Hopefully today will be his day. Now here come the rest of these cars. Mikola, Riddall, Gerard Rion, and Del Piccolo, and then you have the Ferrari of Yannick, followed by Lucena.
So, what a close fight those guys have there.
Yeah, and then the rest of these cars are getting pretty spread out back here.
It must be quite stressing to be here driving these very difficult cars in this very tight circuit, and then on top of that having the pressure of another car trying to overtake you.
So Rion and Del Piccolo, yeah, this is an incredibly close battle. They're right behind the Mikola-Riddall fight. This has the potential to be explosive if somebody gets too impatient. Hopefully that won't be the case because, like we've said, this is a 78 lap race or 2 hours. The actual race in 1991 ran 1 hour 53 minutes, so we have every reason
And
to
it
believe.
seems that Mark Florkin also retired with suspension damage.
Oh my
as well
goodness!
as Didier Conjot.
Both Didier Conjot and Mark Florkin, my goodness. So having that, being starting at the back and having that space didn't help, evidently, in their case. That's too bad. But really, this is a race where precision is the name of the game. If you make the slightest error, you cannot, you basically get into a situation where you're either out of the race or you've damaged the car. And now, there's real, oh my goodness, Grant is really going for it. He locks up the brakes going into the casino section. Now they're heading down that very steep hill, and I can say from personal experience, having been there, that is a very, very steep hill, steeper than it looks on television, going down to Mirabeau. Now he's on the inside. Oh! Mikola turns in, but just sees him.
But he's making his way through.
Well, no, it doesn't look like it. Oh my goodness! Oh no!
Oh, that's really unfortunate.
That's really unfortunate. Let's look at a replay of this because I want to be sure I know exactly what happened here. Because see, here's Grant on the inside going into the hairpin. Then he comes down to. So basically, it looks like he just got squeezed a bit there by Pascal Mikola, and he went into the Poitiers barrier.
Was obviously trying to get enough angle to turn around the corner because it's a quite tight one, and even if he did the slightest of the moves, it wasn't enough to push Grant car against the barrier.
Well,
it's quite unfortunate. It seems like a racing accident at first sight, because you gotta reckon that Grant was quite optimistic to try to go too wide on that section of the track.
Yeah, maybe.
But he was really impatient because Pascal was obviously slower than him at that time. And he was getting really, really impatient because he was losing the train of the head of the race. It's
true. This group really has a massive gap between themselves and third place, which is Mick Chapman. Now Pascal has a little bit of breathing room, but not for long because it looks like Gerard is now closing. Oh my goodness, he's right up the gearbox. And remember that these two have Honda power plants. And it may be that Gerard has the better Honda power plant in this situation because it's the V10.
Gerard just pressed the wall there.
Well, you can graze the wall here slightly and maybe survive, but a hard hit, obviously, like what we saw Grant have, is not something you can recover from. So now, yeah, clearly Pascal is holding up this group. And that's not to be critical of Pascal because, like, I've driven this race before and have not been the fastest and finished 8th. And that was just because I survived. And everybody else, even though they may have been faster, crashed out ahead of me. So you don't necessarily have to be the fastest car on the circuit to do well here, but you do have to be the most precise.
Yeah, it's something that you must live with. I mean, it's obvious that there are going to be cars with very different rhythms. The track is not wide and overtaking is not easy. So it's something that is bound to happen is simply
Look at this.
Get hold.
Oh my goodness, Gerard is really, he's climbing all over the back of Pascal, looking for a way by. He's trying to, oh goodness! He lost the back end there in the casino section. Lost a little bit of ground, but that could have ended very badly. Luckily, he was able to collect it back up. So he's basically second in this train, and he's looking for any opportunity he can to get around Pascal.
Ooh, that was very close for Gerard Rion there.
Yes.
And meanwhile, Gabriel Del Piccolo is picking them. Michel Janac is also behind. It's obvious that right now Pascal Mikula, with his steady rhythm, is however holding them.
Yeah, he's moving at a pretty steady pace, but it's clear that everybody behind him, as you say, is capable of running faster, and they're starting to get a little antsy, I think.
Oh, it's actually producing a traffic jam at that part of the track.
Well, it'll be interesting. I mean, eventually, one thing that we haven't talked about is that eventually the leaders are going to have to start lapping cars. It will happen sooner than we think. And if there are these kind of traffic jams going on, that'll make it really difficult for them to pick their way through the back of the field.
Meanwhile, we have a very similar situation at the back end of the grid, where Jonathan Atherclint is holding the second Brabham, who is Brad Riddle, and Francois Remen is there waiting for his opportunity also for the pass.
Oh yeah, it's true. It looks very similar. It looks very similar to what was going on with Pascal Mikola. The only difference is it's another Brabham and the AGS. Now they climb up the hill, Beau Rivage, and oh my goodness, Ray is all over the back of Jonathan. Jonathan, of course, getting onto the grid and doing well in the AGS largely because of his abilities. Oh man, Francois Remen trying to get around Riddle there, so he may have an opportunity here. Oh, he's down the inside and basically muscles his way by Ray Riddle. And then right behind them is Mr. Swindells in the Kalani. So this group definitely, and it looks like he may actually have a chance to overtake Riddle. So if Riddle's not careful, he could lose 2 places in a lap here.
And look how that small fight that Bremen had with Riddle when he overtook him has immediately given Jonathan Atherclint some space to breathe.
Yes, he's pulled out a gap already.
The slightest delay here means immediately a couple hundred of yards. That's the same thing that happened to Pascal some time ago, but now he has Gerard Rion already on his tail again.
Well, yes, he does as they head up the hill.
For a moment, but Gerard is also getting impatient with this.
He is getting very
Probably
impatient.
He's feeling the pressure from Gabriel Del Piccolo from behind.
Yes, Gabriel is closing in, and Gerard realizes that if he doesn't get around Pascal soon, he's going to be in danger of losing his position to Gabriel, who now pulls right up behind Gerard Rion. So this is a 3-car battle, definitely now.
And it's no wonder what happened to Grant Riddle before, because Pascal is in a very good car. This is actually the McLaren from Ayrton Senna. It's a very powerful car. And it's obvious that the only chance that you have, if you are quicker, to pass him is in the slowest sections. But that, of course, implies a very big risk.
Yeah, it's pretty clear that Pascal has the legs on him in the faster sections, but as soon as you get to the slower bits, he closes right back up again.
So Francois Remen, meanwhile, overtook Jonathan Atherclint.
Well,
that's a man on the move.
Yes, he is. Let's see if we can get a replay of that overtake. Looks like it happened just before... oh, goodness, he did it on the outside at Massenet. That's pretty impressive. Look at that. Wow. That's a pass that you don't see too often. And he's pulled out a massive gap now. So clearly he was being held up by those cars.
Riddle, meanwhile, also overtook Jonathan Atherclint. And it's Rob Swindells who is now putting pressure on him.
Okay, this is going to be real interesting because you have 2 cars. Actually, Swindells' Kalani is powered by the same power plant as Jonathan's car. They're both the Ford DFR V8s. So, and you can see Ray Riddle just ahead of them. So, it'll be interesting to see if Swindells can get around him. Swindells, as we mentioned, is in his HSO debut, running 15th so far. And I think, obviously the points only go down to 6th place, but just finishing this race, I think, is a victory in itself. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah. In any case, yeah, that's right. This is such a tolling race. I mean, this is probably one of those races that would rate as almost as an endurance race, and it's probably no coincidence that it featured in the Triple Crown. It was the Formula One race chosen for the Triple Crown, right side by side with the Indy 500 and the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
So here they come through the Nouvelle Chicane again. Beretta is now catching this group. Oh, Swindells has a look, but thinks better of it going into the Tabac corner. And now he's looking in the swimming pool section. That's not the best place to be looking for an overtake. but he is clearly being held up by Jonathan.
So Gerard Rion is now really putting some pressure on Pascal Mikula. They just went by Steve Parker, who has been lapped. And there is a small train composed of Pascal, Gerard Rion, and Gabriel Del Piccolo, who are fighting it out constantly.
Yeah, these three are really tight together. It looks like Gerard I've been watching him lap after lap, and it looks like he has continuing difficulty in the Poitiers section after they get past the station hairpin. His car seems very squirrely through there. Oh, goodness, now he's under attack from Gabriel Del Piccolo.
Yeah, Gerard's position is certainly the most complicated one because he has to attack Pascal Mikula and also defend himself from Gabriel Del Piccolo. So it's certainly a place to be if you are able to multitask.
We'll have to see as they come into the Rascasse if you can get good purchase coming off this corner. I mean, the V10 Honda may be better suited for this circuit overall because of the lower power band, the smoother power band the V10 would afford versus the V12, which would crack on the V12 that Pascal Mikula has in his car. As they head up the hill here, you can see Pascal pulls out that V12, gives him a definite advantage, but then when they get down here to Casino Square and Massenet, I think you'll see him start to close in again.
So meanwhile, Rob Swindell's just passed Brian Janik.
Oh,
and is on the move to overtake Vincent Beretta. They are all hunting down Jonathan Arthur-Clint, but the fight among themselves is making them not as quick and not able to catch Jonathan as easily as you would suppose when looking at their race pace.
Yeah, the infighting that's going on here as now David Jakes is overtaking Swindells and having to weave his way through this group. But yeah, their fighting back there is basically playing right into the hands of Jonathan, who's able to streak away.
Pascal, meanwhile, has been able to buy some time, and it seems that all three have settled in a comfortable rhythm. They have seen that the differences are slowly spreading with the rest of the field, and they are not able to catch the guys in front anyway. So it seems that at the moment, Gerard Rion is content to be behind Pascal and wait for an error.
Gerard just made a slight error. He bounced off the wall at Anthony Noges, and Del Piccolo is in a prime place to attack here. I don't know if Gerard did any damage to his car. He seems to be fighting it now a little bit more than he was before. We'll see if he's able to hold off Del Piccolo.
All this, of course, is only in the benefit of Pascal Mikula, who is flying away from them.
Yep. Oh, man, Gerard ran really wide, and Del Piccolo almost had a chance to go through there, but Gerard got back in time. And that's really dangerous if you run wide there at Mirabeau because you've got that tire barrier right to your outside, and if you run out of room, you're out of the race. You'll just clip the left front tire and take it right off.
Meanwhile, David Jacks has just lapped Jonathan Arthur-Clint and the group that was behind him, and he is minding his own business, 4 seconds ahead of Jan Kowalski in the head of the race. Though he was 5 seconds a moment ago, and now he's 4 seconds, probably the result of having lapped those cars. But it's obvious that in the Jordan there is not as big domination as there used to be. Well, we all know the quality of Jan Kowalski as a driver, so it wouldn't surprise me that he is actually waiting to make some kind of attack on David later in the race.
Yeah, potentially. And Kowalski is basically now sandwiched between all of these cars. We'll get a good look at the interval when they come by here into the Nouvelle chicane. As David Jakes comes through, he's coming up to Ray Radal. And there's Beretta. It's not that big of an interval now. I'm sorry, no, Kowalski. Oh, there's Kowalski. It's not a huge interval. And he's got his own teammate in front of him now, and I'm sure that he'll be able to get around him without too much trouble. And Jakes is now trying to find a way around Ray Radal, but of course, you know, even okay, well, Ray pulls alongside, gives him the space, but even if a driver is trying to be cooperative, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be easy to overtake someone or lap someone, because you may just arrive at them at a very awkward point.
Meanwhile, Jonathan Arthur-Clint is about to be overtaken by Ross Swindell. It was very close 2 corners ago. Now he seems to have been able to pull a bit of a gap in the straight, but Rob is again on it in this entering this section.
And he's got Brian Janik right behind him, driving the Lamborghini. Oh, goodness! Rob had to slam on the binders there going into Massenet because Jonathan got in the brakes earlier than he thought, and he almost ran into the outside wall.
This track requires so much precision that just 1 yard further in your braking point can mean a world of a difference.
Yeah.
You can clip a wall, you can miss your entry point, anything can happen.
A world of difference, meaning an early afternoon finish. Oh, no! Swindell's just lost control going into the tunnel, and that allowed Janik to get by. It looks as if he's going to be able to continue. It doesn't look like he... Oh, no, goodness! Vincent Beretta is spinning. Not sure what's going on there, but it looks like he was able to get going again. And Swindell's doesn't look like he's any worse for wear. He's right back up with Janik again, but he very nearly lost it coming out of the turn that leads into the tunnel, the one after Portier. So he's going to have to be very careful to not have that happen again, because and that's a very interesting, you know, you wouldn't expect him to lose control coming out of a slow turn because the DFR is not renowned for its raw power. But and now Janik is in a prime situation to attack Assercliffe.
It must be certainly very hard for Jonathan Attrition to do such a long race enduring such pressure from behind.
Well, he's had a few respites here and there where some of the guys were putting a lot of pressure on each other behind him, and then they ended up losing ground. Now we have the third place car of Mick Chapman coming up behind these three, so that's going to play into this. It appears that I think that's Vincent Beretta. So Vincent has gotten going again, thankfully. Oh, and here's Janik. Janik coming down the inside, and he gets through. Excellent move. Excellent pass going in.
Very clean, with the cooperation of Jonathan, who is also a very good driver.
Yeah, Jonathan is smart enough to
certainly a daring and excellently executed move.
Very well done. And now Jonathan is right in contact, or Swindell's is in contact. Oh, Rob Swindell's just had another. Oh goodness! Oh no! Janik has spun in the Rascasse, and now he's got to try to get that car going again. He executes a very good three-point turn, and gets going again. Let's have a look at the replay of this.
And it's really amazing how the rest of the cars were able to.
There it is. He just, and the cars all avoided him. That's the other thing that's amazing. But he was able to just avoid getting hit by people, A, and B, get the car turned around in one of the tightest parts of the circuit. That was pretty impressive. Slightly reminiscent of his run at Interlagos, where he would make an advance and then fall back, make an advance, fall back. Yeah, this group is looking really squirrely back here. You have Beretta and you also have another Lamborghini, or is that also Janik? Yeah, that's Janik back there, I believe. Trying to recover from the incident he just had. But yeah, Swindell's is now all over. No, actually, that's David
Steve
Dunt.
Parker is in the pits right now.
Steve Parker.
We're only 22% of the race.
Yeah, there he is, coming into the pits.
So, yeah, that did not finish. Probably he got some damage.
Must have.
Yeah, he probably got damage.
And Swindell's has gotten by Assercliffe. Let's take a look at this replay, because could be a good overtake. Yes, he did it in the exact same place that Janik got by in the Nouvelle chicane, and a beautifully executed pass too.
Meanwhile, in the head of the race, it seems that David Jacks has been able to open a gap again. So Jan Kowalski is 8 seconds behind, and Mick Chapman is driving a very steady and lonesome third place, 25 seconds behind. It's instead Gabriel Del Piccolo, who has been able right now to overtake Gerard Rion, getting impatient at that and probably willing to put some pressure on Pascal Mikula.
Yes, that's right. So now we're going to see what the Lotus driver can do with Pascal Mikula. And we've seen Gabriel Del Piccolo do well in previous races. He's a hard charger. So we'll see if he can first close the gap to Pascal Mikula and then overtake. You got to remember also that Pascal is running his own broadcast live from his cockpit, and he's commenting on things as they happen. So he's not only got...
We got here also two good friends in real life in two red cars who are coming together in the track. That's Martin Lassina and Michal Janak. Martin just is starting to catch up on Michal, and he's getting close now and putting some pressure on him.
Yeah, these two started in the lower half of the top 10 and had a pretty uneventful first few laps, thankfully. And yeah, there's a chance that these two red cars will be, well, they're in close contact now, but there could be a change of position here before long.
Martin is a quick driver, but also both are very reliable and very reliable and steady drivers.
Yes.
Great drivers to drive with. I had the opportunity to drive with them in the 6-hour race at Monza. It was unfortunate because we lost the brakes, but they are great company to race with.
Yes, that was the, I believe, the Sauber team. Oh, Yannick goes wide and that almost looked like he let Lassina by there. But is it possible that Yannick is experiencing some kind of a problem with his Ferrari?
It could be, because that car really has a strong pace here. And meanwhile, Gabriel Del Piccolo is having no nonsense with Pascal Mikula. He's putting some serious pressure on him.
Oh yes, he's
Came
right up
like
with him
a
now.
rocket already on his tail. And let's see what he's about to do.
The Lotus Judd, sponsored by Tamiya, a name that some people in the forum would be familiar with from building model cars.
Well, one of our past great drivers, the Portuguese Tiago Malafaia, a guy we miss here a lot. He was also well known for being an ace, absolutely an ace at doing scale models. I've seen some of his work, and it's certainly impressive.
We have a lot of
He was also an ace driving there. That's a video of at YouTube, I think it's still, of him driving these cars, because he was here in the last time we ran this 91 season, and he was shifting manually with his G27. It was absolutely amazing to watch.
So it looks like from when we were watching Gerard Rion, and he was having real difficulty in some of the slower corners just keeping the car pointed straight. It appears that Del Piccolo's Judd engine is giving him just the right power delivery that he needs in these slow sections. He seems to get good purchase off the corners and doesn't seem to spin any. Now they're coming up on Brian Janik and Jonathan Asserclinth. This ought to be interesting. Oh,
meanwhile,
goodness!
Martin Lassina overtook Michal Janak and is flying away. So
There
it seems that he had a very good rhythm. He already showed it in the first street race here, that was Phoenix, where he was challenging for the podium and victory constantly.
It appeared that there was slight contact between Del Piccolo and Mikula going into the station hairpin, but we'll see. I mean, there's no wing damage, so it appears that everything's okay. We'll see what the interesting thing here is going to be, if they're able to get by Janik and Asserclinth cleanly as they exit the swimming pool.
Meanwhile, we have some reactions on the forum.
Oh boy.
And Grant Riddle, for example, said that he was very disappointed with the retirement, but he reckons it has to go down as a racing accident, as he was a bit too optimistic into the hairpin and made slight contact with Pascal.
Well, that's a rather mature assessment of that situation, considering.
He felt a bit squeezed out on the following turn, but these things happen.
Wow, that's surprisingly a surprisingly mature reaction. As oh God, look at this bottleneck now, as Pascal is definitely being held up by the cars in front. Now he's probably going to be able to get by going into. Well, he gets by one car, and then Asserclinth lets him by there. So that actually could have been a very volatile situation, but it was diffused. Oh goodness! I believe a collision might have just happened there. let's have another look at it as the cars are coming down to. So here's the lapping that's taking place between Mikola and. Let's take a look here at the. Yes, Gerard Rion ran into the back of Del Piccolo. So the question is, oh goodness! And now he's out of the race. He's out of the race. What happened? Oh, he ran into the wall exiting the tunnel and just went straight on into the barrier at Nouvelle Chicane, lost both front wheels.
Yeah, he likely missed his braking point when following Pascal.
My goodness. So there's another retirement. Very unfortunate.
That's a relief for Pascal right now, who was having certainly a big amount of pressure in this race.
My goodness, now Pascal has got clear track in front and clear track behind him. Mick Chapman is still running in third place, and he is 28 seconds behind the leader. So you have actually equidistant gaps between the leader, David Jakes, who's 12 seconds ahead of Jan Kowalski, and then you have another 14 seconds or 16 seconds back to the third place of Mick Chapman. So one other thing that we didn't talk about yet are tire tactics. Tire degradation obviously will play a portion of the...
Oh, Brian Janik. His car is just damaged.
Boy. Let's see. Oh, goodness, he's lost a wheel, so that's going to be the end of his race.
The front wheel.
Here's the replay.
Yeah, he should be parking the car soon because that can't be repaired. That's beyond repair.
Well, it's difficult to see because we're getting lots of ping action here, but it appears, yes, that he's lost his wheel somewhere, and he is now tooling around the circuit. You better bring that car in, because obviously he cannot continue in this state. That's too bad, because he had that beautiful overtaking maneuver earlier on. Well,
so Martin Lacina, meanwhile, has moved up so much that he's actually challenging Gerard Rion.
He just went by him now, and that was another situation where it almost looked too easy. Let's take a look at the replay.
I would suspect that Gerard Rion's car has a bit of damage.
Yeah, it's clear he does, because he was absolutely locking and power sliding, or not power sliding, but sliding through Anthony Noges. So, yeah, he's clearly got some damage, and it's probably a combination of earlier contact that he had, and then the contact that he had with Del Piccolo earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's go through the top 10, because there's actually some pretty interesting names here that have made it to the top. David Jakes is in first after 24 laps, 11.8 seconds back is Jan Kowalski, so that gap is relatively the same. Mick Chapman is in third in the Benetton. Fourth, Pascal Mikola, who has outlasted two very, very strenuous attempts to overtake him. Fifth is Martin Lacina, who has overtaken Gerard Rion. Mikael Janik is in seventh. Alessandro Riolo in the Ligier Lamborghini is in 8th place. Ninth place is Yves Placé in the Minardi, and 10th place is Peter Hlavik, his teammate. And then we have Francois Remin in 11th, Ray Vidal in 12th, Rob Swindell's continuing to soldier on in 13th, David Yunt is 14th, Vincent Beretta 15th, and then we have the last runner, Jonathan Asserklint, in 16th position. Everybody else is out of the race. Janik, Del Piccolo, Steve Parker, Alan Forrester, Grant Rodal, Mark Florkin, Didier Congeot, Philippe Martinelli, Raul Yareb, and Ludovic Tienkou. So that's your running order at the end of 24 laps.
And it would seem that Gerard Rion certainly has problems, because right now Michel Janak is getting close to him.
Well, if there was ever a track that you don't want to fight your car, it's this one. Because it's hard enough to keep the car between the barriers when the car is in pristine condition. When the car is not in pristine condition and you're having to drive it in some oddball fashion to keep it going straight, then your job is
Five
doubly hard.
laps ago, it seems that Gerard was able to do some quick laps in 1:27, but the following laps have been very slow, 1:33, 1:30, 1:28. So it would seem that if his car isn't damaged, maybe he has found a moment when his tires have suddenly lost a bit of grip. You know, the tires go that curve of degradation over the race, but there are certain points when you suddenly lose a bit of grip, they go an echelon down.
Well, you mentioned 5 laps ago. That would coincide with his collision with Del Piccolo, so perhaps that what you're seeing there in the lap times is a direct result of that damage.
That could also well be.
Yeah, oh goodness, yeah, he's really struggling. The impact happened on the left rear of the car in the station hairpin, so it could easily have, he is really struggling with that car. If he makes it to the finish, it's going to be a miracle, I think.
I'm watching from the cockpit view right now, and it seems that certainly while going on the straight line, he has to turn his wheel slightly to the right.
All right.
So that would point to compensating a bent suspension, probably a bent left rear one, as you said.
Well, there you go. That would make sense. Those of you who are watching the race today, I would point out that this version of Monaco has brand new textures. Most notably, the harbor itself has beautiful water texture put in here by our very own Francois Remen. And there's some other textures I'm sure that he's updated here, but it's been really great to have him updating these tracks as we go, so we have something new to look at compared to the previous year that we ran the 91 series. Rascasse, I think at this point Gerard is just struggling to make it through these corners, if not quickly, then accurately.
So Francois Remen, meanwhile, quietly has been hounding Peter Lavak, and he is already starting to be close enough to him for trying to make a move soon.
That's true. And of course, Lavak is driving the Minardi. While not the best chassis in the field, it has the Ferrari V12 at its disposal, which obviously would give a good torque coming off of these low-speed corners. So Francois is going to have to pick his overtake.
Peter Lavak just had a small error.
He did, yeah.
Ooh, and that was very close to the barriers for Francois Remen.
Yeah,
having the car in front of the crosshairs is certainly. Alex Riolo got in the middle. That won't make Francois Remen very happy.
No, but I think Riolo has got. Oh goodness! I believe the.
That's very dangerous now.
Very dangerous, and it also. Oh
Alex
my
is
goodness!
Not making it easy for him.
No.
He must have the blue flags waving for him.
You would think. So maybe he can get by right here. Okay,
now,
finally Riolo lets him by.
This is one of those
and Kowalski gets by.
Keep a very cool head, because it's easy to get furious with a car in front.
The interesting thing here is that it appears that Mick Chapman is closing in on Jan Kowalski. Yes, he has indeed. The gap is now. The gap between David Jakes and Jan Kowalski is 26 seconds, but it's only 2 seconds, or almost 3, between Kowalski and Chapman. So we could see a battle for second place here before long.
That's right. It's interesting. Wonder why Jan Kowalski slowed down so much. Well, probably because he was pushing it to get David Jacks, but in the end he realized he wasn't able to.
Or he could have been held up by traffic.
Yeah, in these laps, at any rate. In the previous ones, he probably gave up on hunting David Jacks.
All right, so now Chapman's going to have to deal with Riolo.
Oh, and I'm watching, and probably the reason why Riolo held on was because he was actually in front of Remen in track position. They are 10th and 11th. He was not a lapped car, as I had thought at first, which explains and justifies what he was defending his position.
Oh, well, there you go. So that was actually a position that he was defending. We're so used to seeing the Ligier further down the field that we automatically assumed it was a lapped car.
That's right. In any case, Francois Remen has been able to get back the difference with Peter Lavak, and he's now again on his tail.
The gap between Kowalski and Chapman is now opening up again. So it appears that maybe that battle that was going on was probably the source of why Kowalski lost so much time, because as soon as Lucina got around him, Kowalski came seemingly out of nowhere and whipped around both of them, so he was probably held up a little bit by them, and that would account for Chapman closing in.
It's also possible that the lap times from the guy behind him have waking him up.
Possibly. So definitely Pascal Mikola must be breathing a sigh of relief, because his race has calmed considerably down from previously. Oh goodness, he just glanced the barrier coming into the Nouvelle chicane. It didn't look like a very hard hit. Oh, and we have Rob Swindells out of the race just now with, actually more like 4 laps ago, with suspension damage of some kind. We missed it, but a decent debut, I would say, from Rob Swindells, driving the Colony. First, I mean, to even get it on the grid was impressive, but he had some good overtakes and was able to hold his own with a few cars that obviously had better equipment. So we'll look forward to seeing more from him in future races.
So at the moment, the main battle in the field is between Francois Remen and Peter Lavac, because the other cars have been able to spread up a bit, and they are not as close together.
They are closing in on Jonathan. Oh, goodness. Yes, Chapman has gotten by Riolo. We missed that. But now, yeah, Francois Remen is closing back in again on Hlavik. So we'll see if he's able to overtake. And Hlavik is closed up on Jonathan Asserklin and is looking for a way by, trying to get by here in the Rascast, but that's not really the best. Well, okay, Asserklin pulls to the left and lets him by. Oh, goodness! Oh, there's contact between Remen and Riolo as they came out of the Rascast. I'm pretty sure that was just like an awkward collision, but of course these two are battling for position, and now we have, oh goodness, it appears that Jonathan Asserklin brushed the barrier there. We'll see if he makes his way up the hill.
For letting the lapping drivers pass.
Well, he still has both wings attached. Hopefully he didn't incur too much damage, but Riolo now back in front of Francois Remen, and that's 9th place. And now he's going.
That's a very meritorious drive with that Colony.
With the Ligier Lamborghini.
Yeah.
And now he's right up behind Hlavik. So this again is this is for position. Coming down, he's going to make an attempt at the Nouvelle chicane. Oh man, very close, but he muscles his way by. There may have been light contact there, and now Remen is looking to get by.
Sound muted. Sound resumed.
Yeah, this is the situation. He was able to do it. That was a situation where you have been holding to your position, fighting it all the way, and then all of a sudden you get overtaken. It's like a down for you suddenly, and it's very easy to lose it to another driver who is coming from behind.
So now we have the Ligier Lamborghini all the way up into 8th place, which is amazing for this car.
So Vincent Beretta just crashed.
Oh no! You know, Vincent Beretta is a guy that we are used to seeing do very well in a variety of cars and series. He just doesn't seem to be getting along too well with this. I guess the accident happened too far back, but he doesn't seem to be getting along too well with the Leighton house.
Not this season. He seems to be a bit out of focus. Maybe there's some real life things going in the way. He's not as dedicated this year, but his quality is out of question in any case. So there must be something else.
Oh goodness, we have a major development here. Pascal Mikola has lost his front wing and he's going to the pits.
Very unfortunate.
We haven't seen what happened. Okay, here we're going to be able to see what happened. He's coming through the tobacconist turn. This is the replay, and he loses control exiting the tobacconist and loses his front wing. That's really unfortunate. And you might point to that as being potentially caused by the excessive torque of the V12, maybe. I don't know.
Well, that puts, in any case, Martin Lacina in a very good 4th position, considering when he started.
All right, so we have Mikola exiting the pits now. that characteristic red clay tarmac that they have in the pit area at Monaco here. Heading back up the hill now, and that drops
And
him.
he has Yves Placé in his crosshairs to get back this at least the 6th position. That gives you 1 point.
Give him 1 point. So we're coming up on half distance in this race, believe it or not. So yeah, it's amazing that he didn't lose as much time as he did, but we'll see if he can catch up with Yves Placé in 6th place. Meanwhile, we have Martin Lucena, and he's overtaking. Well, that was Ray Radal, and he's up to 4th place. So this is a typical Monaco situation where you have several drivers who start way back, and they benefit from other people's problems in the race and climb up the order.
It's Arrion who is now closest to Peter Lavac. There's a small train of cars there with a bit of a distance, but any error can mean a fight between Riolo, Remen, Lavac and Gerard Rion.
But we've already established pretty clearly that Rion is driving a crippled car, and it'll be interesting to see if he's able to attack Hlavik, but
it doesn't seem to prevent him from getting close to Lavac and probably mounting an attack very soon.
yeah, we'll have to watch closely and see.
There, you get it. He's trying to pass there on the main straight.
And he's looking at him on the outside going into, oh man, and he did it! He's got him! Wow!
Very impressive overtake maneuver on the outside.
So that puts Gerard back into the top 10.
You have to give a lot of confidence in the other guy, but you know that Peter is a guy you can trust.
Yes, definitely so. So, and they are coming up now on Francois Remen. They've got a little bit of a gap still to catch him, and Remen is trying to catch Riolo, but Riolo's pulled out a good distance. Now, one thing to consider with Alex Riolo, he's driving the Lamborghini engine, and especially with the Ligier, the Lamborghini is an engine that likes to blow up. So, and we've seen that Steve Parker has had plenty of difficulty with the engine in his Ligier over the first few races. So
That's
the question, so we're going to have to keep an eye on that. He's definitely moving quickly, but that's a car that you may have to baby to the finish. So.
Meanwhile, Pascal Macula was able to get 6th position back from Yves Placé, and is now on the move to chase Michel Janac.
Yep. So soon we'll see a V12 battle, maybe. Well, actually, that one there was a V12 battle between him and Hlavik, but and if you take a look at the front end of Pascal Micula's car, it looks like he has already damaged his new front wing.
Yeah, it seems to have clipped it
against
the wall at some point.
Yeah, he's clipped the wall on the left-hand side somewhere. So he's already...
He's driving Ayrton Senna's car, who was very famous for certainly using up to every little inch in the track.
Yes.
There was a myth that was around, an urban legend that actually I don't think was in fact true, but could have been, knowing Ayrton Senna, about his pit crew putting matches on the wall so that he would bruise the wall just enough to collect a match in Monaco. I don't think that was real, but knowing Ayrton Senna, it certainly has some possibility of being similar to the truth because of his legendary precision when driving. He and Graham Hill are, I think, the kings of Monaco historically.
Yes, that is true. They both hold the most wins in Monaco history. I believe that's the record you're referring to. I have a vinyl record somewhere that was produced at the same time the movie Grand Prix was made, and it has an audio recording of Graham Hill going around Monaco driving his, I forget what car he was driving in 65 or 66, but the sound was incredible, and you basically followed around the course looking at a map on the back of the record album cover. So.
Whoa! Meanwhile, Ibañez seems to want his sixth position back from Pascal Mikola.
Yeah, he's definitely staying with him. He hasn't dropped back. Doesn't look like he's ready to mount a... Oh, the other interesting part of this is that Riolo is closing in on these two.
Well, he certainly had the rhythm. The way he did overtake Remen and all the group was nothing short of impressive. He came out of the pits, so he probably has fresh tires, and that's the reason.
Yeah, that is something to keep in mind. I mean, if I would guess, you know, if you're going to the trouble of changing or fixing the front wing, you may as well put tires on the car, because that's going to take less time than actually repairing the wing. So you may as well just do that. So Pascal may have actually also traded up to a softer compound, knowing that most of the race is gone, or at least half of it's gone, and maybe he figured he could go with a softer compound. We'll see.
And something must have happened to our leader, David Jacks, because right now Jan Kowalski is only 9 seconds behind,
My
whereas
goodness.
it was almost half a minute.
You're
some time
right.
ago.
Well, potentially, is it possible that he went into pits and changed tires?
Maybe. I had a look at his lap times, and 2 laps ago he did a very slow lap, 1:39, probably due to traffic. I don't think, maybe it could have been a driving error because it was 13 seconds slower than usually, so it could very well have been a driving error, something he maybe went straight into one of the escapes and he had to come back to track, something like that.
Well, in any case, he's back on track, and the car seems to be pristine. There doesn't seem to be any damage, and he's going back to lapping cars. But that, very significantly, the gap has gone from over 20 seconds all the way down to 9 seconds between himself and Kowalski. So
much closer now is Alex Riolo to Pascal Mikola, already putting some pressure on him.
Oh my goodness, they're right together. And yeah, Riolo went by.
Peter Lavak is in the pits.
Riolo went by Peter Hlavik, so now he's looking to overtake Mikola, and he's having difficulty getting out of that out of Sandoval. His back end broke.
Now you see the power of the Honda engine here going uphill. But as soon as they go into the slower turns, Riolo will be back on his tail.
We'll see. And to your point about Hlavik, he's not even though he's lost the position to Riolo, he's not dropping back.
In this section, Riolo is getting
actually
that's
that's Yves Placé. I apologize, misidentifying cars. That was Yves Placé. So Riolo now is going to be looking for an opportunity. So now Pascal Mikola's relatively calm race, or at least it become a calm race. Now it's back to being a high pressure race again.
He's certainly going to earn his money today.
Yes, and his viewers will be getting an eyeful, I'm sure. This car that Riolo was driving was driven by Eric Comas in the 1991 series, and I remember as a kid watching that series, and it seemed that Eric Comas was terminally, seemed to always be starting 26th on the grid in this car, which coincidentally was numbered 26.
But meanwhile, David Jacks is opening a bit of a gap again. Just to keep that in mind, because we had a doubt before, and it seems that probably that was some kind of driving error, but he is now again on a rhythm that is quicker than Jan Kowalski.
Well, Riolo just had a slight miscue going up the hill. He gathered it back up okay, but he lost a little bit of time. So it looks as if he's not having a handling issue with his car, perhaps it's a grip issue with tires. And it's causing him to lose traction in lower speed corners. So if Mikola is looking to keep that position, his best friend may be the wearing tires of of Riolo. As look at that, he's really struggling to make it through the. And there he goes again. His back end stepped out again, exiting Nouvelle chicane. So yeah, he's
And I would
definitely.
say that Pascal also upped his rhythm a bit when he felt the pressure from Piccolo.
Oh yeah, I mean
Probably the change of rhythm caught him a bit by surprise, and he hasn't been able to follow.
Possibly. And of course, Riolo is competing against a car which likely has fresh rubber. We have to remember that. So Mikola, I
Yes,
mean,
that pit stop.
yeah, because of that pit stop. So one thing to keep in mind: how many cars are still on the lead lap? We have the top 8 on the lead lap. Yves Placé is the well, actually no, we've got. Sorry, my mistake. There are only 3 cars on the lead lap: David Jakes, Jan Kowalski, and Mick Chapman. And then the first car, which is a lap down, is Martin Lucena. So yes, David Jakes is now pulling up. He's pulling out a gap to 12 seconds over Jan Kowalski. So that gap increases. And then you have roughly about the same, well, actually more of a 22-second gap from Kowalski back to Mick Chapman. Chapman, who we mentioned before, has had some good races, or at least performances early, I mean, at least in qualifying in this car, but then has things go wrong in the race. If he's able to bring home the Benetton in a 3rd place today, that'll be a really nice result for him on such a difficult track. Chapman won our Ontario 4-hour race last year in a Porsche. He's a driver that when he's given a task that requires discipline and concentration, he seems to do quite well, and that's certainly what you need to do well at Monaco. So Lucena seems to be running alone. Janik is running alone, basically. And Mikola seems to be maintaining a decent cushion between himself and Alex Riolo. Coming into the hairpin section, Riolo seems to have the measure on Mikola in these slower sections. And then, of course, when they get to the faster sections, that Honda V12 allows Mikola to pull out a gap. Coming down to Nouvelle chicane. Gerard Rion now running by himself, and we have Hlamek essentially running by himself. So the cars at the back are starting to spread out quite a lot. Last car running is 14th, Jonathan Asser-Clint. The rest of the cars are out of the race. So we have 12 retirements so far, and we're coming up. We now have 41 laps complete. So in another 7 laps, there'll be. Oh goodness, Lucena is out of the race. Let's see what happened here. Replay. Here he is exiting. Oh goodness, his engine let go. The Judd engine retires. So, in the tunnel, too. So, that is the end for Martin Lucena for this race. Very unfortunate. And that means that Mikael Janek will move up to 4th place. And Pascal Mikola will move up to 5th. And Riolo will move up into the points in 6th place.
Well, like I said, Martin Lucena is actually a very reliable driver, so it had to be the engine that lets go.
Yeah, the engine let him go. Oh, goodness! Riolo just had a bit of a moment at the Nouvelle chicane. He had to bound over the curbing, but the car seems to be okay.
All that overdriving the car to catch Pascal Mikola seems to be making him pay his toll now.
Yeah, he's definitely, I mean, the tires that he has are only tires in the academic sense. They are round. They were once made of rubber. So he's going to have to probably baby that car for a bit just to keep it on the track. Oh, no! No! No, no, no!
The front washed out.
And Gerard Rion just managed to get his car stopped in time. Let's look at a replay. There comes Mikola through. This is the replay, and he just clipped that barrier on the outside of Anthony Nodges, and Gerard masterfully was able to get the car stopped in time. That's really unfortunate because we were looking at the potential of points for the Ligier team, and now they're out of the race. So that brings Yves Placé in the Minardi up into 6th place now. So we have points-paying situations for Minardi again. Hlavik is still in 8th. And Gerard Rion, despite all of his issues today, is now in 7th place. So we have drivers who are able to get to the top 10 or top 6 simply by surviving. And that's classic Monaco type situations, especially in sim racing.
Yeah, it should be the case. Sim racing and in real life, because finishing this race is really hard. I mean, just driving around here at normal speeds would already be a challenge, because this is certainly a town that was laid out well before the automobile started to be so popular. But then trying to drive a Formula One around these streets, it seems crazy. I mean, it's already a tradition, but that's the only thing that keeps it going.
It really is a track that has no business hosting cars of this caliber, given the dimensions of the track and the space, that you have if you make a mistake, which is 0. But it is the glamour and the movie star aura of Monaco that makes it a perfect marriage with Formula One. Always has been and probably always will be.
So Pascal Mikula, who has got rid of that pressure behind him from Alex Riolo, is now in turn putting some pressure on Michel Janac.
It's true. This is the Ferrari versus McLaren battle that we had forecast. So we'll see if he can, and actually this, some of you may remember, not to reopen old wounds, but there was a rather controversial run-in that these two had at Interlagos. And it'll be interesting to see if that plays any role. I mean, obviously that was towards the end of the race and they were racing for a position, but clearly these two are very tenacious competitors. They don't give any quarter, and Mikola is now right up with him.
Well, like the real counterparts in these cars, because we all know that Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost weren't exactly friends back then.
Well, actually, Yannick is driving Jean Alesi's Ferrari. The Prost Ferrari is driven by Didier Conjot, who has since retired from the race. But now Mikkel is very definitely with Michael Yannick, and we'll see if he's able to get around him. Yannick driving a defensive line there.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that was very close.
Yeah, they're going to have to be careful here because they've had two going into the station hairpin. They're both really, really giving each other no rest. Coming down to Nouvelle chicane. Mikola fades to the outside.
Yeah, he wants to get the best entry to the turn.
Oh!
Because that would give you angle, but he took too much of that curb.
Man, that was close because he could have that could have pitched him into the barrier, but he.
And look at that small error, how it immediately meant a big gap to the car in front.
That opened up about a three car length gap. Just making that one small error open that space. That's all it takes here, is just to make one small mistake, and suddenly you've got a big cushion between you and the car you're pursuing. All that.
So Gerard Rion retired. Finally, he got suspension damage. Yeah, he.
All right, here's the replay.
No, yeah, he hit the barrier there.
Yeah, he hit the barrier, and he came to. I guess he just said to himself, "That's it. I'm done. This is too much," and he's out. So too bad. Ray Radal is also retired with engine failure in his with his Yamaha. So that's both Brabham Yamahas out of the race. Jonathan Azerclint is running 12th, but eventually he's going to be elevated to 10th. But he's running very slow, it appears here. So
No, he's making it steady.
yeah, but
It's Francois Remen who is right now willing to have Peter Lavac's position.
oh yes, these two are very close as they come into the station hairpin. They've actually got the leader coming up to them in a bit here. All right. He's very well placed coming into the tunnel here. Maybe he can make it. So he's going on the inside, but nope, not enough room there. Coming down towards the... And he's taking the outside line, similar to what you were saying, trying to get the best purchase. Best line getting out of that as they come into back.
Ooh, he clipped there.
Yep.
It's too easy to get locked fixed with your view into the car in front and then try to cut the corner. But there is a wall there, so you can't cut through that.
We can see the skid marks there at the exit of Anthony Nodges where Alex Riolo had his accident. Coming up the hill now, and it looks like that Ferrari V12, even though it's not the factory best, allows Peter Hlavac to pull out a bit of a gap. So we have a potential here. I mean, if there's another car that has an issue up front, both Minardis could be in a point-scoring position again. And those cars were not renowned for their speed or their good handling in 1991. So the fact that they would be competing for points positions is quite a significant thing. And Pascal Mikola is still behind Mikael Yannick, but it looks like he's cooled it just a tiny bit. Just trying to at least keep him in his sights.
Brad Riddle went out with broken engine.
Yes. And we have, by the way, David Yunt in the remaining Modena Lamborghini running in 9th place. And he's had an amazing record of finishing in the points driving as a guest driver. Indeed, he's second in the points right now. If you look at the driver's point standings, he's in second with 8 points, way back from David Jakes, but still, second place is second place.
Yeah, he's been the Roberto Moreno of the Formula 1 here.
Yes, exactly.
Only that he has more talent.
Hey, you know, anybody who can get the Andrea Moda Judd onto the grid in 1992, that takes talent. That's my
I thought
count.
you was going to say anybody can have more talent, but
No, that would be my counter argument for Moreno, and Moreno was an excellent driver in kart. Formula One always proved to be an excellent training ground for IndyCar drivers.
oh, that's right. And there is actually a forum that goes by the name Formula One Reject, where they like to discuss exactly that. People who were rejected by Formula One but actually made a decent career elsewhere. Roberto Moreno featured there prominently.
Yes.
Also Mark Blundell.
Moreno started the 1991 season driving for Benetton, but by the end of the season was a substitute driver for Minardi and I believe Jordan, because he basically got displaced by the arrival of Michael Schumacher.
No, I mean, talking seriously about that, it's obvious that Moreno had some talent, but his problem was that he shone in those cars when he was not yet having a good chance, and then when he got the good chance, he wasted it.
Well, there are plenty of there are other drivers who are in that category as well. I mean, most notably Johansson, who had drives of both McLaren and Ferrari that basically amounted to nothing. And then the funny part was he had excellent drives in teams like Onyx.
Maybe it's the kind of driver that the pressure gets the most of him.
Potentially. Because once Johansson arrived at Tony Bettenhausen's
And look at
organization.
Francois Ramen now. He's trying it on the outside.
Oh
Peter
boy.
Lava closed very well there.
Yeah, he's got to watch it there because, oh, he's trying now, going into Tabac, but thinks better of it.
It would seem to me that the Dallara has a better engine than the Minardi, but I think that they actually have the same one.
No, the Dallara actually has a Judd V10, and the Minardi
is Ferrari.
Minardi is a V12 Ferrari, but purportedly not the same spec Ferrari. Oh,
In
goodness.
any case, it seems that it has more top end.
It does, definitely. But the Judd is not a it's not a bad power plant. Oh, now he's got a good chance. He's right alongside going up the hill, and he gets by. That takes a lot of concentration and a lot of trust in the person you're racing against to give you that room, because as we know, going up that hill, it kind of weaves back and forth. Oh, goodness! Remen almost ran out of real estate going into Mirabeau, and now he's gathered it back up. But this doesn't look like a battle.
That's obvious. Once you have overtaken, you want to keep the momentum and put some distance with the
Yeah.
car that you just overtook, so that you don't have problems defending that position.
Well, as you pointed out, Alberto, the Ferrari engine has got the legs on the Judd in the straights, so this battle probably is far from over. If Lavik can stay with Remen, just in terms of horsepower, it's a possibility that this battle could rage on right to the end. We've got 30 laps to
No,
go.
so far Remen opened the gap, so it would seem to me that they won't be able to recover that position quickly.
Yeah, well, not quickly, but I don't know. We'll see. Oh, goodness, he's really... It seems he might be just a tad flustered right now because he's pitching the car back and forth and getting some wheel spin. So, and that's just allowing Remen to get away. So there goes that chance to counterattack.
And Jan Kowalski is in the pits.
Yes, he is.
65% into the race. This could be a scheduled pit stop.
This is a
He's
scheduled
going
stop.
very quickly out.
That was a scheduled stop for tires. And that Ilmore engine of his. I would have thought that would be a bigger challenge to David Jakes driving the Ford engine, but maybe I was being a bit optimistic.
Well, you bet if we had Greg Wasson here on track, that would have been the case, but that's how it goes sometimes.
Yep. All right, so that opens up the gap between Jakes and Kowalski to 31 seconds and change. And then we have Mick Chapman is a further 16 seconds back. So,
well, seeing that gap, maybe the reason why David Jakes lost that much ground sometime before was actually a pit stop that we didn't see.
I would be wagering that was his scheduled pit stop to change tires.
It was quite early into the race.
True.
But it could have been that his strategy was to start on softs and then pit relatively early because he knew he would have been able to open quite a big gap.
That would have been an interesting strategy, but you have to depend upon the other part of that too, is that he's taking full advantage of the fact that he is in front and has a clear track in front of him, and then later on after the pit stop, he doesn't have to work as hard because the herd in theory is thinned out and there's more room to maneuver. So, yeah, that does seem like a relatively sound strategy if that is indeed what he is doing, as he overtakes one of the Minardis.
Pascal Mikula is meanwhile back putting some pressure on Michel Janal, who just breezed the wall.
Oh yeah, these two have been running in tandem for a while. Now they're coming up behind David Yunt to put him a lap. Or actually, no, I'm sorry. That is. Or actually, let me see. Who is this? It is Yunt, and it is also Asserklint. And Asserklint lets them both by, being the gentleman he is. Mikula definitely right with Yannick now, and basically has got to pick the proper time. This is kind of a role reversal because the whole day, most of the day at least, Mikula has been the pursued car. Now he's the pursuee.
Well, it's actually too tempting to see that fourth position in front of you.
Oh yeah, I mean, fifth is
Because
nice.
anything
but,
that happens puts you in the podium if you get that fourth position.
There's contact between the two of them. Yannick put the binders on going into the hairpin, and I think he slowed down a bit quicker than Pascal was anticipating.
Well, Janak has been fighting that car for some time. Either the setup isn't sound or the...
Mikola
or the
going
car
down the inside,
oh.
has an opportunity, and he gets by. I think that might have been, that part of that overtake might have been on the discretion of Yannick. He didn't want to get into an accident, and he figured maybe it's better to just let him go. But in any case, Mikola now elevated to fourth place, and Mikael Yannick drops to fifth.
Well, Mikola got the position. Only it wasn't really necessary to touch him like that in the corners before, but it was hard, of course, to maneuver these cars here in this little space.
Into Saint-Devote once again, climbing the hill. And I actually visited Monaco last year in the summertime. Oh goodness, Mikola just glanced the wall. Doesn't want to do much more of that. But when I visited Monaco last summer, I was really struck by this particular section we're watching now, the downhill run from the casino to the Mirabeau section. You really have to be there to appreciate how steep that drop is. We're all familiar with the run up the hill at Bon Rivage up to Massenet and how steep that is. But it really is surprisingly steep, dropping from the casino down to the Mirabeau. You're walking down the thing, and it's almost like you're walking down a San Francisco street. It's really surprisingly steep. And that's where Ben Paulett and I had drinks at the Tip Top Bar. A location of much Formula One carousing during the 1970s Playboy days. If those walls could talk, right, Alberto?
That's right. I bet that would tell more than one story about James Hunt and the likes.
Well, even maybe...
It's actually not far from there where there is the famous scene where James Hunt was waving his fist.
At Depailler, I believe. Depailler took him out of the race at that corner, and he was not happy, and he nearly attacked a marshal who was trying to lead him to safety after he got out of the car. Oh, okay, Mikola glanced the wall again, so he's either fighting the car or his concentration's waning, one or the other. But it is giving...
Both things also, because it's obvious that by now his car is quite teared down because he has been touching a lot on the walls.
Well,
his only hope is that the damage is as symmetrical.
I've been in situations like that where damage can actually help you in some instances. I damaged the Ford C100 that I finished second with Juha and Michael Drexler at the Monza 1,000 kilometers, and the car wanted to pull to the right a little bit down the straight sections of the track, but that wasn't such a bad problem going through the first turn at Monza or in the Lesmos. Because those are all right-hand turns, so it was once you got used to it, it was actually helping you through.
Yeah, a bit like four-wheel steering.
Yes. So
I'm watching Pascal Mikola from cockpit, and yes, indeed, it seems that the steering wheel is slightly turned to the left while on the straight, so he has suspension damage, that's for sure.
All right. Well, that may be the opportunity that Yannick will need to get back his fourth place, but we'll see.
Well, he's there waiting at least for the error.
He's having a look at him as they come up the hill here, but the last thing he wants to do is get collected when trying to overtake.
Same cockpit view from Michel Janac shows his steering wheel quite straight in the center, so it would seem to me that at least his car isn't damaged.
Well, he's got to remember too that Pascal is not an easy person to get by. We've already mentioned what happened at Interlagos, and he's definitely has even less room here than he did there. So if he's going to make a move, it's probably going to have to be, like you say, reaction to a mistake or something going wrong for Pascal, because that is really how you get ahead around here, is you wait for somebody to make a mistake in front of you. The other circuit that is similar to that probably is the Nürburgring, where you advance your position based on the mistakes of others.
That's right. Not as close, but meanwhile, Francois Remen seems to be also catching Yves Placé. He still has a way to go, but he's getting closer and closer with each lap.
Yes, the Judd engine that doesn't have the prettiest sound in the world, but doing the job for Mr. Remen. So we're coming up now on 20 laps to go, and the leader is David Jakes. Second place is Jan Kowalski, 23 seconds back, and then another 17 seconds back, we have Mick Chapman. Actually, sorry, 27 seconds back. Everyone now knows why I'm not an engineer. Not good with numbers, apparently. So the other thing that's settling in probably now is fatigue. I mean, there's also the potential of a second wind for some of these drivers. What do you think about that? What I mean by that is they have an opportunity to rest a bit in the middle of the race, and then they can go a little bit harder towards the end.
The win is certainly out of reach while David Jakes is in the track.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, Monaco is bound for surprise, so you always can see anything happen, even in the last lap. It could be that drama unfolds when we are closer to the end. And one thing is certain, what you have to do here, it's more true than in any other track, is first you have to finish.
Yes.
If you are able to put your car on the finish line, then anything can happen.
Monaco, of course, has been the site of some very, very memorable finishes. Two that come to my mind are the 1984 finish where Ayrton Senna was chasing down Alain Prost in the rain, and the only reason he didn't catch him is because they decided to stop the race just before he got to him. And, of course, the 1982 result where Riccardo Patrese won by virtue of the fact that everybody in front of him was running out of fuel or crashing. In fact, he also, in the last laps, nearly beached the car in the station hairpin and managed to get it going again. But everybody was running out of fuel. Alain Prost crashed, and James Hunt made the famous comment, "Well, we're standing here by the start-finish line waiting for a finisher, a winner, and we're not getting one."
Yeah, that's right. Though I should say that if you are looking for dramas and people running out of fuel inside of the finish line, probably the IndyCar has been the one that has given more of those dramatic finishes.
Yes, because they very famously limit the amount of methanol they give people based on 1.8 miles to the gallon spread out over the distance. And there have been situations like that where people have needed to dial back the boost. We'll be doing our 1988 kart series starting next month, and not sure we'll be seeing exact replications of situations like that, but it will certainly be an interesting series. Now we have the leader, David Jakes, coming up on Pascal Mikola. He actually wedged himself between Mikola and Yannick. And here
And
is...
Remen has already Yves Placé on site. He has been, well, quite busy meanwhile, driving steadily, and he has been able to catch up with that Minardi.
Yep, he's right up with him now, not behind his...
That's right now a very motivating position, because Yves Placé has a 6th and last points paying position for grabs.
Well, Francois will definitely be trying everything he can to get by within the next 20 laps, because that's all the time we have left here. We have, well, now 19 laps to go. And he's not going to have all of those 19 laps because he's actually further behind. So we actually now have just 10 cars running in the race. And
which
Jonathan,
isn't actually that bad.
no,
When
it's
we are
not
three
bad.
quarters into this race.
Considering the type of race it is, that's actually more than I would expect. And Jonathan Asserklint is the last car running. He's actually taking it very, very gingerly. I mean, he's not using the full power band. It looks like he's fighting a damaged car.
I would say that probably, as we commented earlier in this race, right before the beginning, the main reason is that the start went quite well. I mean, if you don't see the typical pile-up of cars there that you see in Monaco in sim racing, when the field starts spreading up, people usually get along with each other rather well. And besides the odd incident, you usually see them finishing. Whoa! Now I see Francois Romain just letting Jan Kowalski go by, and that was very close there, the hairpin. So, like I said, if you don't get the typical pile-up in the start, then you can probably see the typical number of finishers, as in many other races.
Okay, one thing that we should point out is that, and as Kowalski now overtakes Plasse, one thing we should point out is that that gap between Kowalski and the leader is down to 19 seconds again. I mean, that's the gap has opened up considerably between second and third place, but it appears that Kowalski has once again reeled in a considerable amount of time. Certainly not enough that David Jakes would feel like he's in any danger of losing the lead, but it does make you wonder, is that traffic that's causing that, or is there something else going on?
Well, looking at the lap times, it seems that Jan Kowalski has been lapping between 1 and 2 seconds quicker than David Jakes. I would say that David Jakes is simply driving, let's say, 80% of his rhythm, so that he doesn't have any problem with walls or anything like that, and he has enough room to compensate for the tire degradation without any surprises. While instead, Jan Kowalski is doing his best to put some pressure, because the gap here is a bit fictitious. We have seen that a slight error can immediately mean that you lose a lot of ground, and conversely, the slightest error can mean that a car that was actually 19 seconds behind you can suddenly be on your tail, putting pressure on you. And this upsets the driver a lot and can mean immediately that you are in danger of losing your position.
Well, in the meantime, this battle with Remen and Yves Plasse, let's see if this is well, there's a little bit more space now, but it looked like, I mean, right after Jan Kowalski dispensed with these two, it appeared that Remen was right up with Plasse, but that since has cooled down a little bit.
No, it's actually Michel Janac who is closest to the car in front. That is Pascal Mikula.
Oh yeah, this is still going on now.
Probably he's realizing that Pascal is struggling with an ill-handling car, and he's just putting that tiny extra pressure to be able to bring him into making an error.
I'm getting the sneaking suspicion that we're going to have to watch these two very closely in the closing laps. Because on a track like this, when you are following someone for a long time and you keep seeing that opportunity right in front of you. Oh, it looks like Yannick had a little bit of trouble getting out of station there, but he seems to be okay now.
And we tend to forget that when we are watching the TV stream, but we just saw, for example, Michel Janac going 250 kilometers per hour down in the tunnel. And I mean, you just picture yourself in the average street in your city, and think about the car going 250 there, and then you have a clear idea of what it is, what these guys are doing.
Yeah, it really is a surgical approach more than anything, and it's hard to think of that at these speeds, but you really have to nail it exactly right. There have been a lot of oh goodness, there's oh man, Jonathan is known for being very considerate, but he was almost considerate to the point of his own demise there. He nearly drove into the barrier while he was making room for the cars that were lapping him.
It seems that Francois Remen got by Yves Plasse.
Yes, he did. Let's see if we can see where the overtake took place. Hopefully it didn't happen too far back. But it may have happened coming out of the tunnel, but he's dispensed with. Well, Eves is still staying with him, but that's a significant overtake because it puts Remen in 6th place and into the last points-paying position.
So, and Remen is right now at the hairpin, while Michal Janak is after the tunnel going into the chicane. So the distance isn't really huge if you have got a good rhythm. It's just that probably there won't be enough laps for him to catch up with those.
I would think that that's probably optimistic that he would get there by the end of the race. I think it's more
in normal
like
conditions, certainly, but as we said, any error can mean any gap getting very thin suddenly.
It'll be interesting to see because Mikola now is pulling to the inside. Oh, and he hit the outside wall. He's glancing along. Oh my goodness! Now those were very serious hits. And if
he's
he has
bouncing and rebouncing constantly like a billiard ball.
Yeah, he bounced there, and now clearly his car is very damaged, and now Yannick really just has to wait for the right opportunity.
Yannick actually has to be very careful, because if Pascal loses control of his car and gets against the wall and bounces, it could very well mean that he takes Michal Yannick with him.
Yeah, and he doesn't want that to happen. He's driven a very good race, and it is. Oh goodness! Oh, actually, he's letting Kowalski by. That surprised me there for a minute, but and now Kowalski's going to have to try to. Yeah, look at Mikola. He's weaving the car back and forth. Clear. Oh goodness! He glances off the barrier. Yeah, I'm thinking that it's a matter of time before Yannick is able to get by, but hopefully he won't get collected by a mistake or a handling issue of Mikola's. Well, we can say this for certain, that Mikola has gotten the absolute most out of the McLaren Honda that he could today.
Yeah, he's actually driving a wreck on wheels right now.
Mm-hmm. So this is where he had his issue before, and yeah, look, he's practically driving a slalom down this pit straight.
Well, not the best situation to be right now. I mean, with enough laps, an ill-handling car, and your rival right on your tail.
And this is the worst place to have a car slaloming in front of you. The Vodovoz section, where the track really, the fastest way up the hill is to just go straight and as you can, and to straighten out those turns as much as you can.
But Michal is certainly a cool-headed guy, and he's not going to play it safely.
Yeah, he's no spring chicken.
He won't be doing anything stupid. He will be waiting for the error to happen.
Yeah, he knows that all he has to do, and for those of you who don't know, Michal Yannick is a former GPL champion. This is a guy who's been sim racing longer than some of us here, and he knows. He has enough experience on his shoulders to know that it's not a good idea to push Mikola now, that all he has to do is just wait for the right opportunity. He knows that Mikola is driving a crippled car.
Despite that, it's incredible how he's keeping it on track.
Yeah, it is impressive that with all these issues that he's still able to be on track. He seems a little smoother coming through here this time.
Yeah, he's obviously quite slow. I mean, the only reason that Michal hasn't tried to overtake him successfully yet is because with all that waving around, he knows it's more dangerous than waiting for the error to happen. But if this continues to
another
be so, he might get impatient.
Another impact with the wall at the exit of Casino. Yeah, right now Yannick has got to just try not to get impatient. He's also got, this is interesting, to show you how much Mikola is holding him up. He's got the Lamborghini closing onto the back of him. So clearly, Yannick could be going a lot faster than he is right now.
That's the situation I was talking about before. We saw that Francois Remen had overtaken Yves Placé, and we said, yeah, it's a bit optimistic to think that he could catch Yannick. But that's in normal conditions, not with Janak being held up by Pascal
True,
Mikula
true.
with an handling car.
Now I see what you were getting at. That's right. You're absolutely right.
I wasn't actually thinking about Pascal, but that anything that holds you up can immediately mean that you have trouble
Well,
with the cars behind you.
there's still a pretty big gap. I'm looking at a stationary view here of Rascasse, and we still haven't seen Francois. Here he comes. So it's still a decent gap, and we have we're coming up on 12 laps to go. So it's still, we'll see what happens. But the other possibility is, of course, that if something were to happen to Pascal and he can't finish, then of course that would elevate Remen as well. But
just to give you an idea, Francois Remen is lapping constantly in low 127s, while Michel Janak is doing between 130 and 129s behind Pascal Mikula.
My goodness, that does add up.
2 seconds per lap is certainly a considerable difference.
That is a huge difference. It does add up considerably if he stays on that pace. But yeah, I mean, props have got to be given to Mikula for keeping his car going under these conditions. I mean, obviously, he must be cursing a lot in German in that cockpit, just trying to keep it going. And the fact that he's able to keep it between the barriers still is pretty impressive.
Yeah, but his live stream is going to get adult rated in YouTube.
Yeah, if it doesn't get flagged for having the entire Motley Crue catalog, it will get flagged for expletives. But in any case, the gap between the leader and Jan Kowalski is at 12 seconds, and I believe last time we looked at it, it was 13. So it hasn't really changed much. So I'm thinking that your supposition is correct, that David is just slowing it down and trying to conserve his. Well, now it's down to 11.8, but I think he's just trying to keep it cool and not make any stupid mistakes as his tires wear down and the fuel load comes down. He knows he's got the cushion. He knows he doesn't have to win by a mile. So, I mean, he's looking at a potential opportunity of having a perfect 40 points. I don't know what the record here at HSO is for winning races in a row in a series. I know that Guassin won 5 in a row in the 1978 series. And if David wins this one, it'll be 4 for him. I don't think we keep a statistic on that anywhere, but it'd be interesting to look back and see if there was a situation like that. Because the only one I can think
Probably
of is...
not, because some years ago we had the quickest drivers ever here, like John Sibert, Martin Audran and that, but despite winning a lot, it was all quite balanced between them, so those victories were certainly not one after each other.
Well, definitely Guassin had 5 wins in a row last. I do remember that very clearly. Driving the Shadow, so in the 78 series. So we could be looking at a similar situation here with David, and this is after he relinquished the McLaren Honda. Pretty amazing. And at one of what would arguably be the most difficult race this calendar year.
That's right.
At least in these cars. I think the other, if I were putting bets on what would be the most difficult race of the year, the Nürburgring 1,000 kilometers probably will be the most difficult race of the year.
Well, that's going to be certainly a very hard one.
I mean, we saw a Group 5 car win the first race at Monza because of the fact that so many were out of the race. I think potentially a Group 5 car could win that race too, for the exact same reason.
Well, it did in real life. It was the combination of Joachim Stuck and Nelson Piquet who did that in the BMW M1 Group 5 in 1981, I think it was. I'll just press the wall there. Yeah, it's too hard not to get locked on the car in front and end up doing the same as it does.
So we have the gap continuing to decrease between second place and first. 9 seconds now is the gap, but I am going to refuse the urge to get all excited because I'm quite certain that it is just David pacing himself to the finish. 8 laps to go. So the next race after this one will be the Canadian Grand Prix, the race where Nigel Mansell famously shut off his car by mistake at the hairpin on the final lap. A track that should produce some interesting results, I would think. I drove in the race in 2013 when we did Canada. I was in the Benetton, and it is a tiring race, I can tell you that, because it's high speed.
Everything is going very fast.
Yeah, it's very high speed.
The direction, the check-ins, everything. It's really quick.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very tiring.
And highly and similar to this race in that it's very technical, extremely technical.
Yeah, you require a lot of precision because that race is also between walls, despite it being theoretically a more normal track, not a city track, although it's temporary, but the walls are also very close, only that the speeds are much higher.
So 7 laps to go now. The gap's down now to 8.9 seconds. Chapman is also closing in. He's only 4 seconds behind Jan Kowalski. So while it's probably unrealistic to see anything developing from the lead.
No, it's 1 minute and 4 seconds.
Oh goodness, you're right, 1 minute. Sorry, my apologies. 1 minute and 12 seconds back from the leader, and so.
But I'm really willing to see what is going to happen in these last laps, because Michal Janak is really going to get impatient now.
It's true. They're still running nose to tail for 4th place. It looks like David Young just backed off a bit and basically said, these two, I don't want any part of this. So now they're coming up, I believe, on Jonathan Asserclint. And not saying he's going to cause them any issue, but it might cause an awkward kind of situation that might be what... Oh, no. Well, there goes that. He pulled right over and just let them by in the swimming pool. And you can hear Pascal's engine dropping to very low revs as he goes through the low section corners. And that actually, I mean... when you have that happen in an engine with that much torque, and then you get back on the power, that can be difficult to control.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't appear that he's blipping the throttle on downshifts, necessarily. Yannick runs very wide going through Massenet. Coming down to Mirabeau.
And Francois Reimann is certainly going to run out of laps to catch them, but not out of pace, because he's constantly getting ever closer.
Yeah, but even if he doesn't catch them, he's got a 6th place and 1 point on the table, which will be really nice reward for a hard day's work. And
it seems that Pascal right now bought himself some space, because he just left Michal Janak behind.
Yeah, he does. I mean, well, his car certainly is still weaving a bit, but yeah, he does seem to be pulling out a little space. Maybe it could be that Yannick just needed a bit of a breather from being behind, because it can be mentally tiring, even if you're not pushing somebody, to be behind another car for lap after lap after lap after lap. It can be just mentally exhausting.
Well, not just that, but Pascal suddenly dropped his lap times from high 27s to 26.6, which seems to indicate that he still had some rhythm up his sleeve, and he suddenly did that quick change of rhythm, and that's one of the things that can easily put the driver who is following you out of the picture, because not everybody is able to mentally do a very quick change of rhythm when he's following someone. If you're in front, that's one thing, but when you're following someone, getting all of a sudden that different rhythm into the turns, out of the turns in the track, and everything can easily put you off.
Yeah, Pascal's doing a better job staying off the walls now than he has been in previous laps. Although he is definitely struggling to keep the car straight still. So when David Jakes comes by next time, there will be 3 laps to go in this race.
He has it pretty much in his pocket right now.
Yeah, the gap is maintaining.
Yeah, the race is his to lose at this point.
Yeah. But a great result for Jan Kowalski, who, if he brings the car home in second, he's had a few races where, he had a potential for doing excellent, and then some incident put him out of the race. So I'm sure he'll be very happy with this result, regardless. And also, I mentioned it before, but it bears repeating, Mick Chapman qualified third. Looks like he's going to finish third, and he had some other races that he qualified excellent for, and then things went wrong. So I'm sure he's going to be very happy with this result.
Yeah, for sure.
And there are other
for
people.
Michel Janak, this 5th place for Michel Janak would also be very good. But having that 4th place just in front of your nose is going to hurt.
Well, I think he would probably, if he had to choose, he would take that 5th place instead of driving all this distance and then getting into an incident with Mikola on the last lap. He's been in that. Oh, goodness! Oh, no! Jan Kowalski retires from the race with an engine failure. Unbelievable.
That's so
there it is.
Sad. And that puts Pascal Mikula in the podium.
It does. It puts Mikola in a podium position. So now
that makes it all the more worth for Michel Janak to
the stakes have now, as Bobby Unser would say in a situation like this, the price of poker just went up. Because now, Chapman is looking at a potential 2nd place. That's really too bad.
I bet that this retirement just raised Michel Janak's blood pressure for a bit.
Yeah, there is a.
It's actually starting to put some pressure on Pascal Mikula.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would too, because now suddenly he's looking at a potential podium.
Yeah, that's 3rd position. What he's looking.
Yeah.
Only 10 meters in front of him.
I mean, there is something about that when you see that someone has retired in front of you. And you see and you see in the message board in the right, in R Factor, that you have that person. You're approaching that point. And you realize you have the position. And you have to. Oh, look at this! He's trying it unsighted.
He got a much better exit. He was preparing it, and he got a much better exit. But he had to cut before the corner, and that gave Pascal all those extra meters.
My goodness! But when you see that kind of thing happen, it's very easy to lose concentration and make a mistake yourself. When you say to yourself, "Ooh, I'm moving up a place," you have to keep yourself calm and not get excited, and that takes discipline.
They still haven't got that 3rd place, one must say, because the difference was big, and they haven't yet passed.
It's
the
true.
position
Kowalski
where
is
Jan
still
Kowalski
being
retired.
scored as 3rd place. Once they come through the swimming pool section this time, they should be elevated to 3rd and 4th place, because that's where the Ilmore engine let go. That is very unfortunate, though, for Jan. I mean, to do all that work and come up that short. Yeah,
Let's see if he tries again the same move, making a much better exit out from the chicane. He's going now to move very much to the right. There he is. Get a good exit here and point it straight, but Pascal Mikula did it very well this time. He learned from what happened in the lap before. This is going to be a real torture for Michel Janak. And for Pascal, of course.
Yep. Oh my goodness. Yannick came very close to the inside wall there. God, very close now. He's looking side to side as they come up Beau Rivage. No opportunity, obviously, but he's constantly saying, "Here I am."
And this is Monaco, because in any other track, it's certain that he would have already passed Pascal.
Mm-hmm.
Coming now to Jonathan. Ooh,
man,
he
very
missed
close.
the tile of Pascal barely.
Jonathan still limping around. I mean, his car must be far more damaged than it appears, because he's running several laps behind even David Yunt, is the next car up in the standings.
And Michel can... Well,
Oh, and you know what? In all this excitement, we've missed that the race is over. David Jakes wins the race, his 4th race in succession. An amazing accomplishment. Mick Chapman is way back, a minute and 17 seconds back, and it looks like he's going to, if he can bring the car home, finish
and
second.
only 2 turns more for these two. That's going to be a very bitter pill to swallow for Michel.
Well, still.
So he must think about the great performance he did.
Well, a great performance by both of these guys. I mean, that was a great finish by both of them. They both kept their cool. They both, I mean, it was definitely a straight fight between the two of them. They did really well. Chapman still hasn't come through. Now he's coming through to take his much-deserved 2nd place. I'm sure he's going to be really happy with that.
And Yves Placé managed to get back to the 6th place thanks to the retirement, and is closing the points-paying positions.
That's right. Placé 6th. Hlavik just finishes out of the points in 7th. And even with the engine failure, Jan Kowalski is going to be classified 8th. David Yunt is 4 laps back.
Mick Chapman is doing some donuts here.
I don't blame him. Oh, he blew the HB. Oh well. So let's look at the final results. David Jakes wins. Mikkola is in 2nd. Chapman's in 2nd. Pascal Mikkola is 3rd. Mikola Yannick is in 4th. Francois Remin 5th. And Yves Placé, final points-paying position in 6th. 7th is the other minority of Peter Hlavik. 8th, Jan Kowalski, classified but with an engine failure. David Yunt is 9th. And Jonathan Asserklint, the last car running, finishes in 10th.
That's a top 10 for him.
So that's the end of the race. I'm going to step away from the microphone for a second. If there are people who would like to be interviewed by Alberto, they're more than welcome to. I will be right back in just a moment.
User joined your channel.
Hello, Jonathan.
Hello.
We're waiting for you to come, as Jason had already predicted. So how was your race, besides tiring?
A lot of sawing at the wheels, unfortunately, from lap 3 or 4. I brushed the wall and going down into the in the left-hander after the chicane, and from that point on the car wanted to veer left pretty heavily, and later on I got a couple of hits up the rear as well, which bent the suspension even more, and then I finished it off by brushing the same wall a second time, and then the car was close to undrivable.
Mm-hmm. Well, that must have been a very hard race, struggling all the time with this car.
It was, but I'm really happy with the top 10.
You can be.
That's just reward after after that race.
So, David, how was your own race?
Pretty well, probably not as tiring as driving Jonathan's car, because I kept tearing it during the race. That has really been tough with him, but I kinda messed up my start. I saw my hot when to go, and then I tried to evade, I think, Steve's Lambo Ligier, but sadly I clipped him, lost my front wing, probably some damage to the right front. Went around, got a new wing. It was about P18 that I lost after starting 22nd or 21st, not sure. Then I just my usual stuff, consistency, even with a maybe slightly bent car, which I then tried to rebend with going to the left side walls maybe a bit, but yeah, I just kept going, and I never really expected points this time. With the lump, which is just not possible, but coming from like the back of the grid to finish 9th and surviving with Jonathan to the end of the race was very good, a very good run for me. So I'm liking that result quite a lot.
Well, it certainly is, because as you see, only 10 cars finished, and that means that this is essentially a surviving race, as we already said at the beginning of it. So anyone who has been able to bring the car to the finish has already done something really important.
Yes, that's true. At Monaco, even if you're like stuck, you are very afraid of somebody behind you. It doesn't look out, but if you look for yourself, then yeah, you can gain a lot if you're just down with the concentration, which I kind of lost near the end when I lost my front wing again, and I think I was lucky not to lose my front wheel, but put on hard quality tires, but car was so crap that it didn't work at all. So yeah, that's what cost me probably getting P8 from Jan, but hey, that's how it is, and I would have gotten points anyway.
You both had planned to change tires anyway, besides having to go into the pits for repairs.
Probably. I was on D softs anyway. I was just maximizing my grip, because at Monaco, if you crash, you lose much time. So just look that you have grip, and that's what I did.
User joined your channel.
So
I didn't actually
just were joined
want
by
to change
Pascal,
tires.
who did a fantastic third position. Pascal, incredible considering how your car handled it. You resisted very well the pressure from Michel Janac, but there was an incident that was probably the most determining in the race for you. That's when you had that collision with Grant Riddle. How did you see that incident from your point of view?
Which incident you mean? The start or when he
Yes,
crashed?
it was some laps into the start when you were having the pressure from Grant Riddle, and right after the hairpin going down into the tunnel, you moved slightly to the left and you squeezed him a bit against the wall. He took it very sportingly, but he felt a bit squeezed against the wall.
Yeah, I can understand if he felt a little bit squeezed against the wall, and I can explain that. Right from the start on, and
we appear to be having intermittent audio from Pascal.
Yeah, my push-to-talk doesn't work quite as it's supposed to. Anyways, I think Grant had a little bit of a messy start. He didn't quite get away from the grid as well as I thought he would, and I didn't quite get to overtake him. So when I gave up the overtaking attempt, I kind of hit his rear a little bit, and that damaged my front suspension already. So I had a damaged front suspension for the whole race, as you probably saw. And in that corner, I think I hit the inside curb pretty badly, and that kind of pushed my car also to the outside. But the way I see that, I think I was still in front of him as far as the corner was. So I think he was pretty aggressive, and I'm sorry that I pushed him into the wall. But I think that's just an unlucky coincidence and an unlucky incident there.
Well, looking from the outside, it seems, besides that being the normal trajectory, but it seems that you were looking to gain some angle to be able to do the next turn. So it wasn't an exaggerated waving, but he was so close that you actually touched him.
Yeah, that wasn't intended. It wasn't. I didn't do that on purpose. I didn't touch him on purpose. There.
Well, from his point of view, at least from what he says in the forum, he takes it as just a racing accident. So.
Yeah, that's the way I see it
yeah,
too.
So yeah, he's been surprisingly. I mean, for a guy who's as young as he is, he's very very mature, looking at it and going, well, you know, that's the way it goes. So, but it was fun to watch you two for a while. Very close battle early on in the race. Yeah.
Yeah.
And talk about the last few laps with Michael Janek. From our vantage point, it appeared that you were driving a very crippled car at that point.
Yes. Yes.
It must have been really nerve-wracking to keep that car going straight, A, and B, having the Ferrari V12 screaming over your back shoulder. Or how did that play out from your point of view?
To explain the few laps, I have to kind of recall the whole race. I don't know if you saw, but after my first pit stop in lap 31, I had a damage on the front left suspension the whole race, and after lap 31, after my first pit stop, after the tobacco corner going into swimming pool, I lost the car again and lost my front wing and damaged my front suspension even more, and I had that kind of damage for the whole race. The car just didn't want to go in a straight line anymore, and it was really, really crippled. It was bad. I almost gave up there, but I wanted to do a two-stop strategy, like doing the second pit stop in lap 60. But when I had Janek behind me, I didn't do the pit stop because he was behind me and I wanted to keep the position. And so by the end of the race, the car had such bad damage to the suspension that I honestly need to learn how to drive with the steering wheel in a straight line again, if you wanted to take it that way. And my front tires, they were really, really badly worn. Like the left front, which had the most damage to the suspension, was almost flat. It was almost flat. There was almost no rubber on the tire anymore. And I'm quite surprised that the car did handle that quite the way it did.
A question I would have about the incidents that you had where you lost control a couple
User
of times.
joined your channel.
How much of that do you think could be attributed to just the way that the V12 power cracks on? Was that something that was difficult, or maybe part of those incidents at all, or was it something else?
During practice sessions, also together with David Jakes, he taught me a little bit about how to bring the power to the road in the best way possible. Like going through the corners in higher gears, but I think the one major incident that I had in the race, where I can kind of also blame my driving style and also the power of the V12, was the one in lap 31 with fresh tires and then just losing the front wing and damaging the front suspension. That was because I hit the gas too much there, and that was the only incident where the power of the car really came back and bite me in the back, you know.
Do we have any other people joining us here? I believe David Jakes, the winner of the race, is with us. Yeah, David, congratulations on your 4th consecutive win in this series. Obviously, the Ford HB is not a McLaren Honda, but how did your race go at the front?
Well, I'd have to say fantastic, just the way it turned out through the race. Jan definitely put up a charge and had me concerned at various points. I'm not sure what happened to him in the end there, but just most of the race was managing the car and keeping it off those walls because they're treacherous.
Jan Kowalski had an engine failure late in the race, unfortunately.
He was pushing hard.
Well, that might have caught up with him. But from your point of view, were you pedaling it back a little bit towards the end, trying to save the car?
Well, definitely at one point, I was trying to back off and take it easy, and then I saw Jan closing, and then I had been in that mode for so long, it took a little while to shake it off, so sometimes that can be dangerous when you try to back it off like that. But no, it worked out.
Yeah,
in the end.
that's true. If you back it off too much, you can screw up your rhythm, and that can actually lead to an accident in itself. But were there any hair-raising moments throughout the race where you were overtaking back markers, for example?
There were certainly maybe some tight spots, but I'd have to say everybody was really good about that. Really predictable and showed their moves. Thank you for that, everybody. Great job. Such a tight track, you'd think that there'd be more problems, but actually it was fantastic out there. Everybody was really aware and helping everybody out to get through.
In the booth, we were blown away by how clean the start was. People were incredibly respectful and mindful of the space around them, and we were really concerned that it would just be mayhem at Saint-Devote, and it was not. People did really, really well.
Well, we definitely have a great bunch of drivers here, and it showed with that start. We can always have troubles, but I think on the most part we do a really good job, and everybody part of the league, involved drivers and administration, should pat themselves on the back because they do a great job running it.
Well, the next race we have, gentlemen, is in Canada, Montreal circuit, Gilles Villeneuve. Any predictions for that race? And that's not directed at anyone specifically. Anybody wants to chime in?
Well, it's David's home track, so
That's true.
I bet that he is willing to do really well there.
Mm-hmm.
Fingers are certainly crossed. From the beginning of the season, that was the race on the calendar I had my star beside, so hopefully we can keep the momentum going.
I think this is. I think the car is. I think David will probably. I'm not saying he's gonna win there, but I think he's gonna
User joined
have a
your
really,
channel.
really impressive time there too. As you said, it's home track, and what I also think is the McLaren and also the Ferrari and the Williams. Basically, the power, the cars with the most power will have a great advantage there because it's, I think, quite a fast track.
We're also joined now by Mick Chapman, second place finisher today. Mick, congratulations on coming home second place. I mean, this must be a very gratifying finish for you, given some of the hard luck you've had so far in this series. How was your race?
Thank you very much. It's a miracle, put it that way. I am very relieved. And at Monaco, of all places, absolutely amazing, if I say so myself.
Well, I mean, looking at the way that you drive normally, I mean, I mentioned during the broadcast that you've tended to shine in races that call for high concentration and endurance, most notably the Ontario 4 hours and other races like that. So, and this is, as Alberto has mentioned, sort of an endurance race in a lot of ways. So, I mean, what kind of a pace were you running most of the way? Were you mainly just thinking, I've just got to keep the car on the road and finish?
Keep the car on the road, not hit anything.
Mm-hmm.
Pace consistent all the way through, sort of between 27s and 25s.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sorry, 125. I was surprised the pace wasn't going down, despite the fact that I was continuing to push at a reasonable rate. But as things were, I'll take it. There was no way I was going to catch Jam. He was consistently faster, so I just pushed as hard as I could without taking any risks.
No close calls though during the run.
Well, a couple of minor. I spun having just passed 3 back markers a couple of laps ago. Spun at the last complex, and unfortunately, I was sort of went into I've got to get this car going mode without actually being aware that the road was clear. Not a proud moment, but I couldn't hear anything, and when I got going, all the drivers in the driver track were pretty much where they were before. So yeah, that was the heart stopping moment. Cars started to get away from me a little bit towards the end. Tires are almost gone, but back markers were entertaining and very good. Getting past them, excellent.
All right.
very much.
Well, that about wraps up the broadcast. But any final thoughts from anyone before we close this out?
Thanks, HSO. Thank you, Francis, for the track.
Mm-hmm.
Good job. Cheers.
If you have a car for me, I'll be back next race.
With another car.
Yes,
That's right.
exactly.
You're going to have to find another ride. All right. Well, thanks everybody very much for the interviews, and thanks to everyone for watching. The next race, as we mentioned for this series, will be the Canadian Grand Prix. I believe we'll have some BTCC action with Jonathan probably between now and then. But until next time, for everyone here, Alberto, David Jakes, David Yunt, Jonathan Asserclinth, Mick Chapman, and Pascal Mikula, this is Jason White saying so long from Monte Carlo.
Bye-bye.